some of the other figures that were released today looked at population growth, and there's a key driver of population growth at the moment is a surge in migration. Is there a concern that as those migration figures continue to track in the way that they are, that it is going to have an adverse effect on the labour market in coming months?
Yeah, we're beyond my portfolio, but let me say this. The figures that have come out today with respect to population don't cover the substantial changes that the government made mid to late last year. So there were significant changes we made there in terms of the integrity of the visa system, and in particular in the integrity of the international education system. International education is really important, but we don't want there to be some rogue providers effectively running visa factories. Those changes were made last year. They're not reflected in the current numbers, and you've already had independent analysis make clear that the projections as to where total population should be by around 2030 will actually be lower than what had been predicted under the previous government.
But the government accepts a norm of more than 500,000 is too high.
As I say, today's numbers don't reflect changes that we've made.
Too high?
You're going beyond my portfolio, and I'm not going to. And we made those changes for very specific reasons about the integrity of our system, and you will see more. You will see moderation of those numbers as a result of those changes that aren't reflected now. We've got numbers at the moment that have come out that are based on settings that have now been changed.
Can I just ask you about the rhetoric from the Shadow Immigration Minister? He says that the influx of migration is causing the rental crisis, that people can't see their GP, that it's contributing to cost of living problems. What do you say to those comments?
Look, I'd say two things. I'd say, first of all, he clearly hasn't had a conversation with Peter Dutton. There's plenty on the record from Peter Dutton where he's been boasting about levels of immigration under him, and where he's been publicly advocating for higher rates of immigration. And the Prime Minister has read those quotes out to the Parliament. So the shadows should potentially talk to Peter Dutton on that. Where the relevant shadows are all in accordance with Peter Dutton are their cries that if you did anything to get people better wages, that you'd end up with fewer jobs. And we've seen today those arguments were wrong. Yeah.
Sorry, right. Can I ask you, as a local member, people in your constituency might be concerned about infrastructure pain from big migration arrivals. What would you say to them? Is that contributing to infrastructure pain and to general population pain?
I say once again, today's numbers don't reflect changes that this government made. We've made substantial changes to what happened. Like you still, when we came to office, there were still loopholes that had been left there since the pandemic. That were still in the system. We made substantial changes mid to late last year. Those changes will be reflected in future numbers. They're not reflected in today's numbers. And so that's why the different pressures that we're talking about here, the numbers that will come into the future will show the impact of changes that we have made.
Can I just ask on the offshore gas bill, that was due to be debated this week in the House but was pulled. Why was that pulled? When is it coming back? Is the government making amendments to its own bill? Look,
the opposition were very upset with us this week that we wanted to spend, I think, so upset that Paul Fletcher even did a tweet. It was that serious about the fact that we were spending the whole week with the main bill in the main chamber being the Administrative Review Tribunal. They were upset about that. They even, bizarrely, from opposition, started moving that our members be no further heard when we talked about the way they'd stacked the AAT. So, this week in the House, the legislative program's been relatively crowded. Legislation that we didn't deal with this week, I expect that we'll deal with next week.